Hey guys, so today we have this 2008 Volkswagen Passat wagon. Has the 2-liter turbocharged, and it's got a little problem. Let me start it up for you so you can hear what the problem is. So if you look at the engine right now, it's actually jumping a little bit. I went to the auto parts store and found that it has a misfire. If you look, it's got a blinking check engine light. So in today's video, what we're gonna do is try to do a few little things to try to fix or try to help reduce the misfire. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is remove this cover because we want to get to the spark plugs. We're gonna keep it simple. We're gonna look at the basics first. So we're gonna go to the spark plugs. To get there, you have to unhook this. There's 2 clips. There's one clip right here, one clip right there. You unhook that, and then you have to undo this hood scoop, which is just 2 bolts. There's one right here and one on this side. You unscrew those, and you can pull this thing off. To pull it off, you just pull up gently because it's held on by rubber rings or something. Just pull it up, and it'll come off. Another thing you can do is unhook this connector. I'm not going to unhook it. I'm just going to push this thing over to the side. So right under the cover, we have our coil packs. Because this is the 2-liter turbocharged engine, it only has 4 coil packs. So what we need to do is unhook the coil packs to take them out. Okay, so using a flathead screwdriver, we're going to unscrew this bolt right here and this bolt right here. This will allow us to move this cover here so that we don't break it. So I'm going to quickly unscrew them. Okay, so next thing to do, you have to push this clip down. It pops up and you pull back. And as you can see, it comes undone. Do that to all 4, and then we can pull out the coil packs. Okay, now that I got the harness off, to pull them off, to pull out the coil packs, you literally you can wiggle it up a little bit, but just basically just pull up and it should come out. These are pretty tight in there, so just pull it out. This one's already starting to go out. Okay, so we got the coil pack out. I don't see too much. There's a little bit of oil here. I don't really see anything else on it. But now we're going to remove the spark plug. Okay, so I have this extension here with the 5/8 socket. This one's made specially for pulling out spark plugs, but that's the kind of spark plugs that are in here. They're 5/8. I'm going to pull this one out, give it a visual inspection. I'm going to do it for all these, but I'm just going to show you on one spark plug what I'm doing. Okay, so this is one of the spark plugs. I think this is from cylinder number 4. As you can see, it has a white tip. I'm going to give it a good cleaning, and then I'm going to check the gap. To clean it, you can really use it almost like any cleaner. You can use brake cleaner, carb cleaner. I'm gonna put it in some gasoline because I have that available. I'm gonna put in some gasoline. Some spark plugs you should be very careful to use a wire brush on. Some of the spark plugs, they are not recommended to use a wire brush on. I'm going to just use a regular toothbrush to clean this one up. Make sure it's clean. Then I'm going to check the gap. Okay, so when I checked the spark gap on all the spark plugs, it was different for all of them. I think the most I saw was 0.04, which is a lot more than what it should be. I read that the specs should be between 0.028 and 0.032. I'm going to gap them all to 0.028. Make sure they're all consistent. Quick tip when you're going to be putting your spark plugs back in, do not drop it in. Make sure you have something that could hold it in place. This socket for spark plugs, it has a little rubber ring in it to hold spark plugs in. So I'm going to put it in controlled. I'm not going to drop it in because that could mess up my gap. I'm going to put it in and then hand thread it, and then I'll tighten it down. So that's just a quick tip for you. Okay, so I just cleaned the spark plugs. Next thing I'm going to do, using some electronic cleaner, I'm going to quickly clean the coils. I'm going to spray the inside, the sides, just make sure that there's nothing on them. Give them a nice spray down. And then I'm going to put the spark plugs back in, and we'll see if anything changed. Okay guys, so got the coils back in, got the spark plugs back in. I hand tightened them. I read that the torque specs are about like 28 foot-pounds. So that's a rough number I found online. I'm not sure how accurate that is because I found that online. But that was just a number I read. But I hand tightened them so that they're tight. I put the coils back in, connected the wires. I'm not going to screw anything on just yet. I'm going to start the car up first to make sure that everything is, to see if there's any improvement. What I'm going to do now is put the cover back on, because if you look, there is an air filter in here and it sucks air in through there. So I'm going to put this guy back in so that there's no problems there. Then we'll start the car up. Okay, so as you can see, I got the cover back in place. If you look, it's not on, it's like literally just hanging here. I just have it so that the air, it's sucking good clean air, and the sensor's working right. That's all I have it on here for. I'm going to go start the car, we'll see if there's any difference. Okay, we're in the car. Let's see if it starts up. Let's see. Well, it will start up, but I don't know how much better it'll work. Let's see what happens. It sounds like it runs a little smoother, but that might be just like a placebo. I don't know. Let's see what the engine looks like. Okay, so looking at the engine, it is still pretty shaky. If you go back a little bit, you can make it out a little better. But the engine is still shaky, so that might have worked, might have not. I don't know. With the engine, there's no difference. So what I'm going to do is go to plan B. Okay guys, so since plan A didn't work, we regapped the spark plugs, we cleaned them, we cleaned the coil packs. The owner said that they replaced the coil packs and the spark plugs look like they've also been replaced, and that didn't fix the problem. Another thing we can try to do is to decarbonize the engine. This engine has 134,000 miles, and I've heard that with this engine it should have been decarbonized, and I'm pretty sure nobody's done any of that yet. So what we're going to do is let the car warm up to operating temperature. First thing it has to do is be up to operating temperature. Now, when I was doing research, some people say to spray, advertisements say to spray in the cleaner into here, into the intake, so it goes through the turbo and all the way up to here. Thing is, I don't know how that's going to work, because it's quite a distance from here all the way back to the intake, which is up here. So what we're going to do, instead, we're going to let the car warm up, and we're going to spray the water directly into the intake. If you look right here, you have your cover right here for the camshafts, the cover right here, and right here you have your PCV valve. If you follow this hose, it goes right into the intake. This is the intake right here, this up here, this black thing. And when you pull this off, carefully pull it off, you will see that in fact does go into the intake. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put these bolts back on first. I'm going to put these bolts back on. Then I'm going to start the car and let her warm up a little bit. Once it's up to operating temperatures, then I could start spraying in water. Okay guys, so as the car approaches operating temperature, I'm going to give you the throwdown real quick. So I've got this bottle here. It says Febreze, but it's not. This is just tap water I poured in here. It's about half the bottle, so about half a liter of water. This is what's, I guess, recommended. I read that most people recommend about half a liter of water. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wait till the car gets to operating temperature, which is almost there. It's almost at the 200. Then what I need is a helper to help me get the RPMs up to 2,000. As close to 2,000 as possible. If I can get 2,000 RPM, that's perfect. With the car idling at 2,000 RPM, I'm going to spray in the water through the PCV valve, which I'm going to show you again where that is. Okay, so here's the front of the engine. You lift the cover up a little bit, and right there, first thing you see, this hose right here, that's the PCV valve. That's where the PCV valve goes, and goes right into the intake. We're going to take that off, and that's where we're going to spray in our water. So the car is almost at operating temperature. I'm gonna go quickly get myself a helper so that I could have somebody idle the car for me while I spray it in. You can't really remove this thing because as soon as you unplug it, the car will die. The sensor's gonna sense that the filter's off and it's just gonna shut the car down. So I'm gonna have to lift this up with one hand and spray water into here, so I can't really record me doing this, but that's what I'm gonna do. Okay guys, so I have about half the water that was in here before. A quick tip I have for you guys. When you take off the hose right here, you can't take it all the way off. You take it all the way off, the car just stutters and dies. So what I had to do, let me show you real quick. What I had to do, I opened it, I pulled it out the tube just enough so I can hear the vacuum going through here. You pull it out too much, it'll die. You leave it in just enough, it will keep running. And I was just spraying it right on top of the nozzle and it was sucking the water in. So right now I'm doing a hot soak. I got half the bottle out. I'm doing a hot soak. I sprayed some water into the intake. I'm gonna let it sit for maybe like 5-10 minutes. Okay guys, so while I was taking my coffee break, or just my break in general, I found this. In case you don't know what this is, this tool is gonna make my life a lot easier. It's basically a pressurized spray tank. You pump this and it pressurizes the inside of the tank. When you press the nozzle, it sprays water pretty good. So, instead of using that little spray bottle, all I have to do is now just put this right by this the PCV valve and just press the button and it'll do the job. The car's been soaking for about 10 minutes. We're gonna start it up and we're gonna keep going with the water. Okay guys, so I've tried the decarbonizing thing. I think it worked. It's kind of windy outside so you can't really make it out, but there was water vapor coming out from the exhaust, so I know the water went through the system, but man, this thing is still running like a tractor. I don't know, like if I hold the phone with both hands, you can see that the camera's slightly shaking. That's because of how the car is running. So I think the problem has to be much worse than I expected. Because the spark plugs have been replaced. The owner said they replaced the spark plugs. They're not the Bosch, they're a different brand. So they've been replaced. They said that they replaced the coil packs. So I don't know what to do. I'm gonna call it a day for today.